Hi, everyone, and welcome to Fun Classic Reads. Every month, we perform a live read from classic and modern books, although we've mostly done classic so far, to bring you a combination of lighthearted laughs and literature. I'm Christie Stratos, historical suspense and historical fantasy author, and my co-host is sci-fi author David M. Kelly. So,
Hi,
at
everyone.
the end of September, it's going to be Banned Books Week, so we kept our banned book that we thought it would be fun to celebrate early. We kept it a secret. It's been a mystery all this time. So we're going to reveal it to you right now. Very exciting. So I'm going to give you some hints first, some trivia, and then I'm going to tell you what it is. So this book was originally published in 1865, and it was banned in the US for the first time in 1900 for supposed expletives and for diminishing authority figures in the eyes of children. It was later banned in China in the 1930s, and that time it was for animals using human language. And then it was again banned by many US schools and colleges in the 1960s for drug use. So I don't know if you have guessed it yet, but tonight we are reading an abridged version of Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, which isn't that kind of interesting, this whole expletives thing? Not really what you expect when you think about Alice in Wonderland.
You forgot one as well, Christie.
What is it?
The 1900 one, it was also banned because it supposedly alluded to sexual fantasies.
That is disturbing. That is more disturbing. Oh my.
Yes. What a strange tale.
Yeah, I don't know if I want more information on that, actually. So anyway, that's a good one. We're going to be reading Alice in Wonderland. There are a lot of characters. It is abridged so that we could fit it into the time slot we're trying to fill. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I would love to introduce our guests. Some of them are playing many characters. Some are playing one. And we had a lot of fun putting this together. So if everybody could introduce yourselves and just let us know who you are and what you write. Let's go to Katie first.
Hi, I'm Katie Salidas. I'm a paranormal and urban fantasy author. Haven't published anything recently, but mostly I've been working on ghostwriting, similar genre. I also do ghostwriting in self-help too, which is something I'm working on, but I can't say.
Interesting. Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that. Nice. How about you, Trisha?
I'm Trisha Ridinger McKee, and I'm the author of 16 books that are women's fiction and romance. And I have over 100 short stories published that range from horror and sci-fi to I've been published in Chicken Soup for the Soul.
I couldn't believe that when I saw that. I was so excited for you.
Thank you.
That was amazing. And next, Anita.
Hi, I'm Anita Stewart. I write under A.F. Stewart, horror, fantasy, steampunk, soon to be cozy, paranormal mystery, and poetry.
Wonderful. My favorite is the dark fantasy you write personally. And next is Keri.
Hi, I'm Keri Eyre. I am published under the name Keri Brown, which I plan to be changing that. So right now my books are not currently available for sale, but I write fantasy with a lot of historical.
Exciting. That's fantastic. That's great. Do you think you could maybe move just a little closer to the microphone? Sorry, I didn't hear it before. It's just a little bit quiet.
Is that
We
better?
wanna make- That's better. We want to make sure we hear you. Okay, so fantastic. Dave, tell us about yourself. Although we should know him by now, but tell us about yourself anyway.
Oh gosh. I'm David Kelly. I write science fiction, mostly realistic science fiction, although I do sometimes delve into comedy, as you may perhaps guess from my performances here. I'm currently working on a new novel, first in a new series, which is somewhat military science fiction. I'm about 95,000 words into it at the moment in the first draft, and there's no sign of it stopping anytime soon. So it's, I don't know, I'm inventing a new genre, perhaps epic military science fiction.
That's different. That's different for you. That's really cool. Wow,
Yeah,
95,000.
so yeah, but it's like I'm having fun. It's I always enjoy writing. So
Good.
editing, not so much.
Yeah, that's a whole other ball game, isn't it?
And yourself, Christy?
I'm Christie Stratos. I write historical suspense and historical fantasy. My latest works are historical fantasy on Kindle Vella. Everything takes place in the Victorian era, mostly in the middle of the century. I do have a couple of standalone short stories that are out there as well, and my historical suspense is in ebook and paperback in most places, but of course the most popular Amazon. So I have a couple of them. I don't know if you can see them, but Anatomy of a Darkened Heart and Brotherhood of Secrets are my main novels that most people know. And I do want to put out the historical fantasy, which is currently on Kindle Vella. I do want to put it out in paperback and ebook. I just keep having things that delay me. So they will be coming, though. They will be coming. So, okay, now
Look
one more
forward to
round
that.
so we can let everybody know what we're working on. Do you have anything coming up for publication or any events, anything that you want to share with everybody? How about you, Katie?
I can't say too much. It will have my name on it when it does get published, which is rare for a ghostwriter. But I am working on a self-help book right now that I'm very excited about. And I hope will actually be very, very helpful when it comes out. You know, that's the whole point of self-help. Definitely a different genre to write than what I normally write. And this is a collaboration with a wonderful person who I've worked with for years. So I'm really excited to be able to bring a new book out. We just don't know when it's going to be ready yet. So I don't want to say too much and jinx it.
Oh, sure. I can understand that. That's exciting. How about you, Trisha? What's coming up for you?
I had 2 recent book publications. Hearts, it's the second in the sister series, and my summer standalone is Best of Intentions. And I also have a short story coming out in the anthology Ruth and Anne's Guide to Time Travel.
Ooh, well, that sounds really cool.
I was excited about that one.
Yeah, seriously, I'm immediately intrigued. How about you, Anita?
Well, the 4th Hayward and Anderson short story is coming out in October. It's all ready to go. It just needs to get the formatting done as soon as I get some time. This week's been very busy. And the 3rd story came out back I think it was in May. So those are the 2 publications that came out this year.
That's exciting. That's fantastic. And how about you, Keri?
Well, along with trying to change the author name on my books, I also need to finish the series. I've written 2 out of the books in the series, so I'm looking for inspiration and trying to get going on that 3rd one, the one that wraps it up. And I do have a couple readers that have kind of threatened life. Not really, but give me the book. So I'm going to be going to England next week, and hopefully during that time I'll find some inspiration, since a lot of different sections do take place there, and I'll be right in the area that those events take place. So it's kind of exciting. Hopefully I come back ready to write.
Yeah, that should be really good for you. Wow. Yeah, I can't think of too much more any better inspiration than actually being there. That's cool.
Yeah.
And how about you, Dave?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm working on the first of the new series. Um, it's quite a bit different to my previous ones, but it's going very well. It still has no name, or at least no name I'm willing to share publicly. It's still it's a secret. It's banned. It's been banned. Other than that, I've got 2 complete series out. My Joe Allen series, which is 4 novels and a novella prequel, and I also have my Logan Two Feathers series, which is kind of a spin-off from the Joe Allen series, and that's 3 novels. So it's there's a lot out there, and the new book is in the same universe, but kind of about 300 years into the future from those first sets of books.
Yeah. Lots to read while waiting for the secret project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Christie?
I've been taking it pretty easy on writing this year. So I do have a short story that I've been working on that's in the Grimoire Society of Dark Acts universe that I've been writing, the historical fantasy. So I have been doing that slowly but surely. I've just had a lot going on, but I haven't stopped. I'm just taking a pause while I sort of get into a place where it's a little bit easier to write. So I've been mostly doing editing. I'm also an editor. You can find me at proofpositivepro.com, and my calendar has been loaded, so that's really where my time has been spent. So that always has to come first. So that is really where I've been spending my time. But there are other things in the works, and I will be continuing the series. We're still in book 3, Prohibited Magic. So have not stopped, and I haven't forgotten. So I don't know about the rest of the year, but we'll see how it goes with the writing, and I'll update you next month. I'll let you know what's going on. So I think that's it for me, really. So I think that means we might be ready for our read, unless anybody has. Oh, we're definitely ready. Dave is suiting up.
I need some preparation time, I'm afraid.
It's very good. It's very lifelike. Fantastic. You can always count on you.
Thank
for
you.
amazing costumes.
And for anybody watching, this is not Father Christmas costume.
We'll get that in later. Yeah. We'll do that in a couple months. Brilliant. Okay. So we're ready to get going. This is Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. And we're going to start off with Anita being our narrator and Trisha being Alice. And the rest of us will be panicking along the way as we do 10,000 characters. So, take it away.
Okay. Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank and of having nothing to do. Once or twice she had peeped into the book her sister was reading, but it had no pictures or conversations in it.
And what is the use of a book without pictures or conversations?
At that moment, a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by her. There was nothing so very remarkable in that.
Oh dear, I should be too late.
The rabbit took a watch out of its waistcoat pocket and looked at it and hurried on. And Alice started to her feet. She had never before seen a rabbit with either a waistcoat pocket or a watch to take out of it. She ran across the field after it and was just in time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole under the hedge. In another moment, down went Alice after it. The rabbit hole went straight on like a tunnel for some way and then dipped sharply down so suddenly that Alice had no chance to stop before she fell down in what seemed to be a deep well. Either the well was very deep or she fell very slowly, for she had plenty of time. She tried to make out what she was coming to, but it was too dark to see anything. Down, down, down. Would the fall never come to an end? Alice began talking to herself.
Dinah will miss me very much tonight, I should think. I hope they'll remember her saucer of milk at tea time. Dinah, my dear, I wish you were down here with me.
Alice was dozing off when suddenly, thump, thump, down she came upon a heap of sticks and dry leaves. She was not a bit hurt and jumped up in a moment. She looked up, but it was all dark overhead. Before her was another long passage, and the white rabbit was still in sight, hurrying down it. There was not a moment to be lost. She chased after it and was just in time to hear it speak as it turned a corner.
Oh, my ears and whiskers! How late it's getting!
She turned the corner, but the rabbit was no longer to be seen. She was in a long, low hall, lit up by a row of lamps hanging from the roof. There were doors all round the hall, but they were all locked, and when Alice tried every door, she walked sadly down the middle, wondering how she was ever to get out. Then she came upon a little table made of solid glass. There was nothing on it but a tiny golden key. And Alice's first idea was that this might open one of the doors of the hall. But the locks were too large or the key was too small. Looking around again, she came upon a low curtain, and behind it was a little door about 15 inches high. She tried the little golden key in the lock, and to her great delight, it fitted. Alice opened the door and found a small passage not much larger than a rat hole. She knelt and looked along the passage to the loveliest garden she'd ever seen. She longed to get out of that dark hall and wander among those beds of bright flowers and cool fountains, but she could not even get her head through.
Oh, how I wish I could shut up like a telescope. I think if I could, if I only knew how to begin.
She went back to the table, hoping she might find another key on it, or at any rate a book of rules for shutting people up like telescopes. Instead, she found a little bottle.
That certainly was not there before.
Tied round the neck of the bottle was a proper label with the words, "Drink me," beautifully printed in large letters.
No, I'll look first, and I'll see whether it's marked poison or not.
When she found no such markings, Alice tasted it. It had a mixed flavor of cherry tart, custard, pineapple, roast turkey, toffee, and hot buttered toast, and she soon finished it off.
What a curious feeling. I must be shutting up like a telescope.
And she was indeed. She was now only 10 inches high, and her face brightened at the thought that she was now the right size to pass through the little door into that lovely garden. However, when she reached it, she'd forgotten the little golden key, and when she went back to the table for it, she was too small. She tried to climb up one of the legs of the table, but it was too slippery. Finally, tired out from trying, she sat down and cried.
Come, there's no use in crying like that. I advise you to leave off this minute.
Then she spotted a little glass box lying under the table. Inside was a very small cake with the words "Eat Me" marked beautifully in currants.
Well, I'll eat it, and if it makes me grow larger, I can reach the key. And if it makes me grow smaller, I can creep under the door. So either way, I'll get into the garden, and I don't care which happens.
She ate a little bit, holding her hand on the top of her head to feel which way she was growing, and was quite surprised to find she remained the same size. So she set to work and very soon finished off the cake.
Curiouser and curiouser. Now I'm opening out like the largest telescope that ever was. Goodbye, feet. Oh, my poor little feet. I wonder who will put on your shoes and stockings for you now, dears. I shall be a great deal too far off to trouble myself about you.
Her head struck the roof of the hall. In fact, she was now rather more than 9 feet high, and she took up the little golden key, then hurried off to the garden door. Poor Alice! Even lying down on one side, she could barely look through into the garden with one eye, but getting through was more hopeless than ever. She sat down and began to cry again. After a time, she heard a little pattering of feet and hastily dried her eyes. It was the white rabbit returning, splendidly dressed, with a pair of white kid gloves in one hand and a large fan in the other. He was trotting along in a great hurry, muttering to himself.
Oh, the Duchess! The Duchess! Oh, won't she be savage if I kept her waiting?
If you please, sir.
The rabbit started violently, dropped the white kid gloves and the fan, and scurried away into the darkness. Alice took up the fan and the gloves and fanned herself.
Dear, dear, how strange everything is today. And yesterday things went on just as usual. Was I the same when I got up this morning? But if I'm not the same, the next question is, who in the world am I? Oh, that's the great puzzle.
She looked at her hands, surprised to see she had put on one of the rabbit's little gloves while she was talking.
How can I have done that? I must be growing small again.
She measured herself by the table. She was now about 2 feet high and shrinking rapidly. She soon found out the cause of this was the fan she was holding, and dropped it in time to save herself from shrinking away altogether.
That was a narrow escape. And now for the garden.
She ran back to the little door, but alas, it was shut again, and the key was lying on the glass table as before.
Things are worse than ever, for I never was so small as this before, never.
Alice began to cry again, for she felt very lonely and low-spirited. Then she heard a pattering of footsteps in the distance and looked up eagerly. It was the White Rabbit, trotting back again and looking anxiously about, as if he had lost something.
The Duchess! The Duchess! Oh, my dear paws! Oh, my fur and whiskers! She'll get me executed, as sure as ferret's a ferret. Where can I have dropped them, I wonder?
Alice guessed it was looking for the fan and the white kid gloves, and hunted for them, but they were nowhere to be seen. Everything had changed since her swim in the pool, and the great hall, with the glass table and the little door, had vanished completely. Then the rabbit noticed her.
Why, Marianne, what are you doing here? Run home this moment and fetch me a pair of gloves and a fan. Quick now!
He took me for his housemaid. How surprised he'll be when he finds out who I am.
She ran off and came upon a neat little house with a bright brass plate by the door with W. Rabbit engraved upon it. She went in without knocking and hurried upstairs, fearing she might meet the real Marianne and be turned out of the house before finding the fan and gloves. She entered a tidy little room with a mirror in the window, with a table in the window, and put on a fan and 2 or 3 pairs of tiny white kid gloves. She took them up and was just going to leave the room when her eyes fell upon a little bottle that stood near a looking glass. She uncorked it and put it to her lips.
I do hope it'll make me grow large again, for really, I'm quite tired of being such a tiny little thing.
Before she drank half the bottle, she found her head pressing against the ceiling and had to stoop to save her neck from being broken. She hastily put down the bottle.
That's quite enough. I hope I shan't grow any more.
Alas, too late. She grew and soon had to kneel down on the floor. Still she went on growing until she was forced to put one arm out the window and 1 foot up the chimney.
Now I can do no more, whatever happens. What will become of me?
Luckily, the magic bottle had now had its full effect, and she grew no larger. Then she heard a voice outside.
Marianne! Marianne! Fetch me my gloves this moment.
She heard the pattering of feet on the stairs. The rabbit was coming to look for her, and Alice trembled, shaking the house, forgetting she was now about 1,000 times as large as the rabbit, and had no reason to be afraid of it. The rabbit came to the door and tried to open it, but Alice's elbow was pressed hard against it, making that impossible.
I'll go round and get in at the window.
That you won't.
When she heard the rabbit under the window, she spread out her hand and made a snatch in the air. There was a shriek and a crash of broken glass, and she concluded it had fallen into the cucumber frame or something of that sort.
Pat! Pat! Where are you?
Sure then, I'm here, digging for apples, Your Honour.
Go and help me out of this. Now tell me, Pat, what's that in the window?
Sure, it's an arm, Your Honour.
Well, it's got no business there at any rate. Go and take it away.
There was a long silence, and Alice could only hear whispers. She spread out her hand again and made another snatch in the air. This time there were 2 little shrieks and more sounds of broken glass.
I wonder what they'll do next. As for pulling me out the window, I only wish they could.
She waited, and at last came a rumbling of little cartwheels and the sound of a good many voices all talking together.
Where's the other ladder?
Bill's got the other ladder.
Bill! Here, Bill! Will the roof bear?
Who's to go down the chimney?
Nay, I shan't. You do it.
Here, Bill! The master says you've got to go down the chimney.
Alice drew her foot as far down the chimney as she could. When she heard a little animal scratching and scrambling about in the chimney close above her, she gave one sharp kick. She heard a general chorus of, "There goes Bill!"
Catch him! You by the hedge!
Hold up his head.
Brandy now.
Don't choke him.
What happened to you?
Well, I hardly know. No more, thank ye. I'm better now. All I know is something comes at me like a jack-in-the-box, and I goes up like a skyrocket.
After a minute or two of silence, they began moving about again.
A barrow full will do, to begin with.
A barrow full of what?
The next moment, a shower of little pebbles came rattling in at the window. To her surprise, the pebbles turned into little cakes as they lay on the floor.
If I eat one of these cakes, it's sure to make some change in my size.
She swallowed one of the cakes and began shrinking. As soon as she was small enough, she ran out of the house and found quite a crowd of little animals and birds waiting outside. They made a rush at her, but she ran off and soon found herself safe in a thick wood.
The first thing I've got to do is to grow to my right size again. And the second thing is to find my way into that lovely garden. I suppose I ought to eat or drink something or other, but the great question is what?
Alice looked at the flowers and the blades of grass, but she could not see anything that looked like the right thing to eat or drink. A large mushroom was near her, about the same height as herself. She stretched up on tiptoe, peeping over the edge, and her eyes met those of a large blue caterpillar sitting on the top. Its arms were folded as it quietly smoked a long hookah and didn't take the smallest notice of her. At last the caterpillar took the hookah out of its mouth.
Who are you?
I hardly know, sir, just at the present. At least I know who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have changed several times since then.
What do you mean by that? Explain yourself.
I can't explain myself, I'm afraid, sir, because I'm not myself, you see. Being so many different sizes in a day is very confusing. I think you ought to tell me who you are first.
Why?
Alice couldn't think of a good reason, and as the caterpillar seemed to be in a very unpleasant state of mind, she turned away.
Come back. I have something important to say.
Alice turned.
Keep your temper.
Is that all?
No.
It unfolded its arms, taking the hookah out of its mouth again.
So you think you've changed, do you?
I'm afraid I am, sir. I can't remember things as I used, and I don't keep the same size for 10 minutes together.
What size do you want to be?
Oh, I'm not particular as to size, only one doesn't like changing so often, you know. I should like to be a little larger, sir, if you wouldn't mind. 3 inches is such a wretched height to be.
It is a very good height indeed.
The caterpillar reared upright. It was exactly 3 inches high. After a minute or two, it got down off the mushroom and crawled away into the grass, still talking.
One side will make you grow taller and the other side will make you grow shorter.
One side of what? The other side of what?
The mushroom.
In another moment, it was out of sight. Alice, looking at the mushroom, wondered which were the two sides of it. At last, she stretched her arms round it and broke off a bit of the edge with each hand.
Now, which is which?
She nibbled a little of the right-handed bit to try the effect. The next moment she felt a violent blow underneath her chin. It had struck her foot. She was shrinking so rapidly it frightened her, and she immediately tried to eat some of the other bit. Her chin was pressed so closely against her foot she could hardly open her mouth, but finally managed to swallow a morsel of the left-hand bit.
My head's free at last.
All she could see when she looked down was an immense length of neck, which seemed to rise like a stalk out of a sea of green leaves far below her.
Where have my shoulders got to? And oh, my poor hands, how is it I can't see you?
She was delighted to find her neck would bend about easily in any direction, like a serpent. She curved it down into a graceful zigzag and was going to dive in among the leaves when a sharp hiss made her draw back. A large pigeon had flown into her face and was beating her violently with its wings.
Serpent! Serpent!
I'm not a serpent. Leave me alone.
I've tried the roots of trees, I've tried the banks, I've tried the hedges, but those serpents, there's no pleasing them.
Alice was more and more puzzled.
As if it wasn't trouble enough hatching eggs, but I must be on the lookout for serpents, night and day. And just as I'd taken the highest tree in the wood, and just as I was thinking I should be free of them at last, they must needs come wriggling down from the sky. Serpent!
But I'm not a serpent, I tell you. I'm a little girl.
You're looking for eggs? I know that well enough. And what does it matter to me whether you're a little girl or a serpent?
It matters a good deal to me, but I'm not looking for eggs as it happens. And if I was, I shouldn't want yours. I don't like them raw.
Be off then.
The pigeon settled down again into its nest. Alice crouched among the trees as well as she could, for her neck kept getting entangled among the branches. After a while, she remembered she still held pieces of the mushroom in her hands, and she set to work very carefully, nibbling on both until she succeeded in bringing herself down to her usual height.
Now the next thing is to get into that beautiful garden. How is that to be done, I wonder?
As she said this, she came suddenly upon a little house in it about 4 feet high.
Whoever lives here, it'll never do to come upon them this size. Why, I should frighten them out of their wits.
She did not venture near the house till she had brought herself down to 9 inches high. Suddenly a footman in livery came running out of the wood. Judging by his face only, she would have called him a fish, and rapped loudly at the door. It was opened by another footman in livery with a round face and large eyes like a frog. The fish footman produced from under his arm a great letter and handed it over to the other.
For the Duchess, an invitation from the Queen to play croquet.
From the Queen, an invitation for the Duchess to play croquet.
They both bowed. When Alice next peeped out, the fish footman was gone, and the other was sitting near the door, staring up into the sky. Alice went to the door and knocked.
There's no sort of use in knocking, and that for 2 reasons. First, because I am on the same side of the door as you are. Secondly, because they're making such a noise inside, no one could possibly hear you.
There was a most extraordinary noise going on within, a constant howling and sneezing, and every now and then a great crash, as if a dish or a kettle had been broken to pieces.
How am I to get in?
Are you to get in at all? That's the first question, you know.
Alice opened the door and went in. It led into a large kitchen full of smoke from one end to the other. The Duchess was sitting on a 3-legged stool in the middle, nursing a baby, while a cook was stirring a large cauldron full of soup.
Achoo! There's certainly too much pepper in that soup.
Even the Duchess sneezed occasionally, and the baby was sneezing and howling alternately without a moment's pause. The only 2 creatures in the kitchen that did not sneeze were the cook and a large cat, which was grinning from ear to ear.
Please, would you tell me why your cat grins like that?
It's a Cheshire cat. Why?
I didn't know that Cheshire cats always grinned. In fact, I didn't know that cats could grin.
You don't know much, and that's a fact.
The cook took the cauldron of soup off the fire and started throwing everything within reach at the Duchess and the baby. The fire irons came first, followed by a shower of saucepans, plates, and dishes. The Duchess took no notice even when they hit her, and the baby was howling so much it was impossible to say whether the blows hurt it or not.
Oh, please mind what you're doing.
Here, you may nurse it a bit if you like. I must go and get ready to play croquet with the Queen.
The Duchess flung the baby at Alice and hurried out. Alice caught the baby with some difficulty, as it was an odd-shaped little creature and held out its arms and legs in all directions.
If I don't take this child away with me, they're sure to kill it in a day or two. Wouldn't it be murder to leave it behind?
The child grunted in reply.
If you're going to turn into a pig, my dear, I'll have nothing more to do with you. Mind now. Now, what am I to do with this creature when I get it home?
It grunted again, violently. She looked down into its face in alarm. This time there was no mistake about it. It was neither more or less than a pig. She set the creature down and it trotted away quietly into the wood. The Cheshire cat, sitting on a bough of a tree a few yards off, grinning at her.
Cheshire Puss, would you please tell me which way I ought to go from here?
In that direction lives a hatter, and in that direction lives the March hare. Visit either as you like. They're both mad.
But I don't want to go among mad people.
Oh, you can't help that. We're all mad here. Do you play croquet with the Queen today?
I should like it very much, but I haven't been invited yet.
You'll see me there.
The cat vanished. Alice hadn't gone far when she saw the house of the March hare. It was a large house, and she nibbled some more of the left-handed bit of mushroom. There was a table under a tree in front of the house, where the March hare and the hatter were having tea. A dormouse was sitting between them, fast asleep. The table was a large one, but the three were crowded together in one corner. No room, no room, they cried out when they saw Alice.
There's plenty of room.
She sat in a large armchair at one end of the table, and the hatter opened his eyes wide.
Why is a raven like a writing desk?
I'm glad they've been asking riddles. I believe I can guess that.
Do you mean that you think you can find out the answer to it?
Exactly so.
Then you should say what you mean.
I do, at least I mean what I say. That's the same thing, you know.
You might just as well say that I breathe when I sleep. It's the same thing as I sleep when I breathe.
It is the same thing with you.
The hatter poured a little hot tea upon its nose. The dormouse shook its head impatiently and didn't open its eyes.
Of course, just what I was going to remark to myself.
Have you guessed the riddle yet?
No, I give up. What's the answer?
I haven't the slightest idea.
Nor I.
I think you might do something better with the time than wasting it in asking riddles that have no answers.
Take some more tea.
I've had nothing yet, so I can't take more.
You mean you can't take less. It's very easy to take more than nothing.
Alice walked off. The dormouse fell asleep instantly, and neither of the others took the least notice of her leaving. She looked back once. They were trying to put the dormouse into the teapot.
I'll never go there again. It's the stupidest tea party I ever was at in all my life.
Then she noticed one of the trees had a door leading right into it.
Well, that's very curious. I think I may as well go in at once.
Once more she found herself in the long hall, close to the glass table. Taking the little golden key, she unlocked the door that led into the garden. Then she nibbled at the mushrooms she kept in her pocket until she was about a foot high. She walked down the little passage, and then she found herself at last in the beautiful garden, among the bright flower beds and the cool fountains. A large rose tree stood near the entrance. The roses growing on it were white, but 3 gardeners were busily painting them red.
Would you tell me, please, why are you painting those roses?
5 and 7 said nothing, but looked at 2.
Why, the fact is, you see, miss, this here ought to have been a red rose tree, and we put in a white one by mistake. And if the queen was to find out, we should all have our heads cut off, you know. So you see, miss, we're doing our best afore she comes to.
The Queen! The Queen!
The 3 gardeners threw themselves flat upon their faces. There was a sound of many footsteps, and Alice looked round, eager to see the queen. First came 10 soldiers carrying clubs, with their hands and feet at the corners next to 10 courtiers. These were ornamented all over with diamonds. After these came the royal children. There were 10 of them, all ornamented with hearts. Next came the guests, mostly kings and queens, and among them Alice recognized the White Rabbit. They followed the Knave of Hearts, carrying the king's crown upon a crimson velvet cushion, and at last of all came the king and the Queen of Hearts. When the procession came opposite to Alice, they stopped.
Who this?
The Knave of Hearts only bowed and smiled in reply.
My name is Alice, so please, your majesty. Why, they're only a
King-
pack of birds after all.
Can you play croquet?
Yes.
Come on, then.
It's a very fine day.
Very. Where's the Duchess?
Hush, hush, she's under sentence of execution.
What for?
She's boxed the Queen's ears.
Get to your places.
People ran in all directions, tumbling up against each other. However, they got settled down in a minute or 2, and the game began. Alice thought she had never seen such a curious croquet ground in her life. It was all ridges and furrows. The croquet balls were live hedgehogs, and the mallets live flamingos, and the soldiers doubled themselves up, standing on their hands and feet to make the arches. The players all played at once, without waiting for turns, quarreling and fighting for the hedgehogs, and soon the queen was in a furious passion and stamped about, frequently shouting, "Off with his head," or "Off with her head."
They're dreadfully fond of beheading people here. The great wonder is that there's anyone left alive.
She was looking about for some way of escape when she noticed a curious appearance in the air.
It's the Cheshire Cat. Now I shall have somebody to talk to.
How are you getting on?
I don't think they play at all fairly, and they all quarrel so dreadfully one can't hear oneself speak, and they don't seem to have any rules in particular.
How do you like the queen?
Not at all.
Alice decided to see how the game was going on and went in search of her hedgehog. It was busy fighting with another one, which seemed an excellent opportunity for croqueting one of them with the other. But her flamingo had crossed to the other side of the garden and was trying to helplessly fly up into a tree. She caught the flamingo and tucked it away under her arm so it wouldn't escape again. Then Alice ran across the Duchess. She tucked her arm affectionately into Alice's, and they walked off together. Alice was glad to find her in such a pleasant temper, but startled when she heard the voice of the Duchess close to her ear.
You're thinking about something, my dear, and that makes you forget to talk.
The game's going on rather better now.
'Tis so, and the morale of that is, oh, 'tis love that makes the world go round.
Somebody said that it's done by everybody minding his own business.
Ah, well, the same thing, and the moral of that is, take care of the sense and the sounds will take care of themselves.
The Duchess's arm linked into hers began to tremble. Alice looked up, and there stood the Queen in front of them with her arms folded, frowning like a thunderstorm.
Now I give you fair warning. Either you or your head must be off, and that in about half your choice.
The Duchess took her choice and was gone in a moment.
Let's go on with the game.
Alice was too frightened to say a word and slowly followed her back to the croquet ground. As they were playing, the Queen never stopped quarreling with the other players and shouting, "Off with his head," or "Off with her head." After half an hour or so, all the players, except the King, the Queen, and Alice, were in custody and under sentence of execution. Then the Queen left, quite out of breath, and walked away with Alice.
You are all pardoned.
Suddenly the cry, "The trial's beginning," was heard, and Alice ran along with the others. The King and Queen of Hearts were seated on their thrones, with a great crowd assembled about them. Little birds and beasts, as well as the whole pack of cards. The knave was standing before them in chains, with a soldier on each side. Near the king was the white rabbit, with a trumpet in one hand and a scroll of parchment in the other. In the middle of the court was a table with a large dish of tarts upon it.
I wish they'd get the trial done and hand round the refreshments.
The king was the judge, and he wore his crown over his great wig.
That's the jury box, and those 12 creatures, I suppose, they are the jurors.
Silence in the court.
Harold, read the accusation.
The white rabbit blew 3 blasts on the trumpet, then unrolled the parchment scroll and read from it.
The Queen of Hearts raised the tarts, all on the summer day. The Knave of Hearts, he stole those tarts and took them quite away.
Call your first witness.
First witness!
The hatter came in with a teacup in one hand and a piece of bread and butter in the other.
You ought to have finished. When did you begin?
The hatter looked at the March Hare, who had followed him into the court, arm in arm with the Dormouse.
14th of March, I think it was.
Give your evidence, and don't be nervous, or I'll have you executed on the spot.
The hatter kept shifting from one foot to the other, looking uneasily at the Queen. In his confusion, he bit a large piece out of his teacup instead of the bread and butter. At this moment, Alice felt a curious sensation. She was growing larger again. The miserable hatter dropped his teacup and bread and butter and went down on one knee.
I'm a poor man.
You're a very poor speaker. You may go.
The hatter hurriedly left.
Call the next witness.
The Duchess's cook appeared, carrying the pepper box in her hand, and the people near the door began sneezing.
Give your evidence.
Shunt.
The king looked anxiously at the white rabbit.
Your Majesty must cross-examine this witness.
Well, if I must, I must. What are the tarts made of?
Pepper, mostly.
For some minutes, the whole court was in confusion, and when they settled down again, the cook had disappeared.
Never mind. Call the next witness.
The white rabbit fumbled with his list.
Alice!
Here.
She jumped up in such a hurry she tipped over the jury box, upsetting all the jurymen onto the heads of the crowd below.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
The trial cannot proceed until all the jurymen are back in their proper places. All. Now, what do you know about this business?
Nothing whatever.
Rule 42. All persons more than a mile high to leave the court.
I'm not a mile high.
Nearly 2 miles high.
Well, I shan't go at any rate.
The king turned pale and shut his notebook hastily.
Consider your verdict.
There's more evidence to come yet, please, Your Majesty. This paper has just been picked up. It seems to be a letter written by the prisoner to somebody. It isn't a letter after all. It's a set of verses.
Please, Your Majesty, I didn't write it, and they can't prove that I did. There's no name signed at the end.
You must have meant some mischief, or else you'd have signed your name like an honest man.
A round of applause filled the court.
Read them.
There was silence whilst the rabbit read out the verses.
That's the most important piece of evidence we've heard yet.
I don't believe there's an atom of meaning in it.
If there's no meaning in it, that saves a world of trouble, as we needn't try to find any. Let the jury consider their verdict.
No. Sentence first, verdict afterwards.
Stuff and nonsense. The idea of having the sentence first.
Hold your tongue.
I won't.
Off with her head.
Nobody moved.
Who cares for you?
She had grown to her full size by this time.
You're nothing but a pack of cards.
At this, the whole pack rose up into the air and came flying down upon her. She gave a little scream, half of fright and half of anger, and tried to beat them off, and found herself lying on the bank with her head in the lap of her sister, who was gently brushing away some dead leaves that had fluttered down from the trees upon her face.
Wake up, Alice, dear. What? Why, what a long sleep you've had.
Oh, I've had such a curious dream.
Thank you, everyone.
Fabulous.
Yep.
That was wonderful. Sorry I disappeared there. My computer seems to not like this for some reason. I don't know. I'm going to have to switch computers. Anyway, that was amazing. That was so much fun. You were all so
Your
much fun.
computer's probably a Lewis Carroll fan.
Right.
That was a lot of
I'm
fun.
sorry about this. My camera keeps twisting. I haven't had time. I didn't have time to secure it this week, so that was wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Wonderful. So how many of you actually read Alice in Wonderland as a kid and liked it, or did any of you not like it? I liked it too.
I've never actually read Alice in Wonderland. This is my first time.
Ah, and you were the narrator. That's perfect. That worked out well.
I've
never read it either.
Oh, you?
I went over it a lot, picking information out of it that I wanted, but I can't say that I gave it a thorough cover to cover read.
Cool. Trying to bring up Nev. But there we go. Thank you. Thanks, Nev. Margaret says, W Rabbit, too cute. Don't remember that part. That was toward the beginning. That was great. I believe she liked the...
I read somewhere that the Cheshire Cat was... was named for cats in a certain area that was called Cheshire. There was a lot of cats would get the cream on their face, and a Cheshire Cat became an expression. Lewis Carroll turned it into a character.
Oh, wow.
That's
yes,
pretty
there is
cool.
a place
I didn't
called
know
Cheshire.
that.
I didn't either.
That is cool. I recently found out that some of the squirrels in my area eat black walnuts, and they get a similar, smile-like look, but it's black. It's really funny looking. I thought they were diseased, and then I found out that they were.
Yeah.
I have a black walnut tree in my yard, and those things will get your ink.
Oh boy.
This
All
is
right,
the character I forgot.
Oh, well, you had that. You did that at the last minute,
That's
I
the
guess.
character did that at the last minute. The glue's still wet, so it's like it's sticking to everything.
Well
Yeah.
done on the props.
Yeah, fish footman. It's very hard to pronounce. I'm just saying that.
Harder than it seems. Oh boy. That was a great episode. We really appreciate everything that you guys did. It was a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
thank you so much.
Excellent choice for a read. That was fun.
Yes, that was a good
Um,
choice.
And seriously, I mean, they banned that. I
I
mean,
know.
that's just absolutely insane.
Still not sure where the fantasies are. Like the sexual
No.
fantasies.
Yeah.
What are we talking
All
Yeah,
the things
it's
that
like,
it got
I
canceled
mean-
for, I plan to put in my books.
Excellent. There you go. That's
That's
the way.
awesome.
Yeah, I would personally love to have one of my books banned. That would be incredible publicity.
Yeah.
It's a badge of honor.
Yes. I've tried very hard, but I've never yet been banned. So
Keep trying, Anita. Fight the good fight.
Someday.
Someday. All right. Dave,
So-
take us out.
Well, thank you to all of our guests for coming and being with us tonight. So that's Katie Salidas, Trisha Ridinger McKee, is it? Is that right?
Ridinger,
Ridinger, sorry.
that's okay.
Hey, Stewart, Anita, and finally Keri. Oh God, I've lost your name.
Air.
Keri Eyre.
Sorry, yes. I should remember that. It's a bit like Londonderry air, isn't it? So, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
I think I've been
A
affected
word
by
that
the
means
mushroom.
butt, right?
Hookah on the
You could
mushroom.
compare it to Jane Eyre.
Yes, quite.
That's
Absolutely.
yes, that's complimentary.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. That's a much better comparison.
Yeah, rather than a butt. Doesn't derriere mean butt?
It can do. I was thinking in terms of the air in Derry, which is a county in Ireland, but there you go. Yes, it could mean butt as well, depending how you spell it. But I was thinking of the place, not the anatomy. So thank you for joining us yet again for this month's live read. Next month, we're into the spooky season. And so we are going to be reading a very special Fun Classic Reads version of Dracula. Yeah! And so that is coming. When is that going to be, Christie?
I think it was. I want to say October 10th, but let me check. It's October 10th. Thursday, October 10th.
Thank you. And so we will be back October 10th with lots of blood and nasty evilness.
That's your only clue, and it's not much, but it's going to be fun. You guys are going to have kind of a good laugh.
A special FCR version.
Yeah.
You can't. How could you miss it?
You gotta set the calendar reminder right now. Right now.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you, all of our guests, for joining us. Thanks for everybody who came to watch. And we will see you next month. And I shall now play us out, if I can. Bye.